So today I want to talk about what I learned after traveling to Japan for about 2 weeks, and I want to focus more so on the mindset and what I learned through their mindset being in Japan for 2 weeks, right? And in another video I'll talk about what I did specifically in Japan and break it down by city for those interested and how much I spent on the whole trip. So when I went to Japan, it's a nice culture shock. It's not too different. It's a first world country as well, but they do things a lot differently there. It's a very crowded country. It's the size of California, but the population is 125 million, which is 2.5 times as big as the entire U.S. Right? So imagine the entire U.S. population times that by 2.5%, and then you um, cram that into California. Right? So because of that, they have to be very efficient in what they do. They have to um, make things are in order because there's just a lot of people, right? So what's nice about being in Japan is most people there they don't have a car. They take the subway, they take the bus, they take the train, and it's very efficient. You can literally go anywhere you want via bus, via train, via you know you don't need to drive essentially, and just due to that nature of taking the subway, taking the bus, you're walking a lot, right? Like for me, on average, I was walking at least 30,000 steps a day. And I think that's roughly, I forgot the mileage conversion, but I won't say it's like about 12 to 15 miles a day, right? And that's me traveling. I think on a day to day commute, on average, people probably walk around like 5 to 10 kilometers, right? And because of that, when you go to Japan, um, everyone I would say is in pretty good shape. Like everyone has, if you walk, even myself, I was walking, 30,000 steps a day. My calves became more developed, my quads became more developed, your lower body just becomes more developed, and you feel a bit healthier. And then also you don't have to worry about the stress of driving, right? Like driving, being stuck in traffic, especially California, Los Angeles. It's most of what we do. So it does relieve a bit of stress, and then you don't have to worry about a car, right? You don't have to worry about car insurance, filling up gas, car maintenance and repair, right? So it's really easy to take public transit and to get around. So because of that, I hope to continue like walking a lot. It's harder because in America we're more sedentary. But I hope to maybe take the stairs to the elevator, or walk there, or maybe incorporate more walking into my day-to-day life. So that's kind of one thing that I noticed is like just how efficient it is. Like you can get anywhere you want from point A to point B, take public transit, and you feel safe, right? And that's another point too. Like when I was in Japan, like for 2 weeks, I literally saw maybe two homeless people cumulatively, right? And being in Los Angeles, obviously, I see homeless people every day, multiple, right? And even the homeless people in Japan, they're a little bit more low key. Like they're just kind of like there's not garbage everywhere. It's a little more contained, and in their little corner, and it's just not as widespread, despite having 2.5x the population, right? So I think it's more taboo to do that. There, a lot of people work like kind of like what I would consider like minimum wage jobs, right? Like they're working as like a chef, a waiter, busboy or bus girl equivalent. And despite that, I think there's a higher standard set in Japan. Like they're expected to be prompt, serve fast, and have good customer service, and they don't get tips there, right? We all had experience in America where you get bad service, the waiter's angry, they mess up your order, they seem maybe entitled, angry. We all experience that. So, but there, right when you walk in, they greet you. You place your order. Sometimes you order your food in a vending machine, and then they'll give you the food immediately. Like literally, I sat down, and within 2 minutes, I had my food. And then you eat. Once you're gone, they clean up the table immediately. Next guest comes in, right? So they're just very efficient in what they do, and they're not expected to. This tipping is not a cultural there, and that's just the expectation, the standard they set. So I think what I liked about Japan was they have a very high standard, and everyone abides by that high standard, right? So I hope to continue doing that. I've always done that myself. I hold myself to a high standard, um, but it was very refreshing to see a whole country of 125 million people uphold that high standard, right? Another thing I noticed is like there's just not much trash anywhere. Like if you go to Japan, there's barely trash cans anywhere, right? Like you have to hold on to your trash. But despite there not being many trash cans, you don't see much trash when you walk around the streets, right? Because people will, pick up their own trash. They don't litter. I think they get fined for littering there, and they actually do get fined, right? Versus, here in California or in America, I just throw trash out your window while driving, and there's no consequences per se. Another thing that was very interesting is they're just very focused on efficiency and reducing waste, right? So, the whole concept of Six Sigma and Lean, that actually arrived from Toyota, which is based in Japan, right? So they're very about like efficiency. So like when you order a bowl of ramen, depending on the bowl of ramen that you order, so you might have done like tonkatsu ramen versus miso ramen. The tonkatsu ramen will be in a red bowl versus the miso ramen might be in a blue bowl, right? So they color coded things, right? This sounds familiar. Like I work in the hospital, we're copying a lot of Lean Six Sigma principles, and Japan's been doing it, and they do it in like ramen shops, right? Like you said, like you order tonkatsu, it's red, the bowl's red, and if you order miso, the bowl's blue. And they're just very focused on like how can things improve over time, right? Like, I feel like there's always this like concept called kaizen, which means slow constant improvement over time, and I really feel like they embody that. I feel like sometimes in America, I kind of see it in some work cultures where people just get very complacent, maintain the status quo. Like, you heard the mentality, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? Don't rock the boat. If the boat, if it still works, don't replace it, right? But I think in Japan, they more embody like, okay, like how can we constantly improve this process to make it more efficient, right? Like, okay, we had this issue, let's fix this issue, and then if you fix all these small issues over time, that's when things get more efficient, right? So, I've always taken that principle in my life, like, make small constant improvements over time, and you compound that over 10 years, and you'll be very surprised as to what the end result will be, right? So, it's just nice to see that even a normal ramen restaurant in Japan, in a train station, they implement those principles. Like, how can we be more efficient? How can we reduce the time? How can we make it a better experience, right? I feel like that's kind of a lost art in America now, where they're just like, well, it works, why improve it? So that's a mentality I see a lot even at hospitals, right? So another thing that I liked about Japan was just, even if I ate out every day like for 2 weeks, and I never once felt like sluggish, groggy, tired from the food, right? Because the food is very clean, it's not greasy, it's not oily, it's not processed. Versus when you go in America, you eat fast food, right? Like it's very processed, makes you feel groggy, sluggish, lethargic, slow. And I'm hoping to maintain that, right? Like I literally if I ate every day for 2 weeks in America, I'd feel really groggy. I feel like I need to go to the gym. I feel like I need to work out. But in Japan, I eat every day, and I feel like I'm in better shape, right? And then when you go out to, there's a bunch of vending machines in Japan, right? Japan's known for vending machines, but like there's barely any soda, right? Like you can't, like in America you see Diet Cokes and Cokes everywhere, but in Japan, like in the vending machine, there'll be like 20 options, and maybe one option's a Coke. The rest is like all like healthier drinks. So because of that, you'll see many people drinking like Coke. So they eat very healthy, they walk a lot, they have lower rates of obesity. There's a little bit less stressors there. So it's another kind of nice thing that I picked up. And what's crazy about Japan is you can go to any public toilet, right, in the train station, and they have bidets, and their toilets are super clean, right? Like, you've seen those horror stories where you go to some public toilets in the U.S. and it's nasty, right? Like, it's really nasty. But in Japan, like, it's actually like really clean, like as clean as like your homes, like being at someone's homes. So there's definitely a higher standard, and there it seems like people are very grateful to have work, right? Or at least they show at least they show it. They don't show that they're discontented. It's very rare. Like I'd say in the 2 weeks there, I came across one worker who was like slightly rude, right? and even then, like that, it wasn't even that rude, right? She kind of just like tossed the paper at me. Well, I guess a little bit rude, but like, it's more common in the U.S. to come across that. And but like that was one experience out of like many in a 2 week span. So overall, hopefully you found value from this video and can maybe take some of these principles that that Japan does to maybe improve your life, whether it's walking more, eating healthier, focusing on small, subtle improvements, and stay tuned for my videos delineating each what I did in each city in Japan and how much I spent on my Japan trip. Just definitely want to start talking about my travels because I spent a lot of time planning these trips. So I want to share with you guys to give value. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. Please share this video with someone who finds value from this, and hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.